Hi and welcome to Be More Super. I'm Brian, your host. Welcome back if you've been watching my videos, and welcome if this is the first one that you've seen. So this show is me chatting to the people that I love from stage and screen, and I'm really enjoying myself. And this week we've got Eric Balfour, the star of Country Comfort, currently on Netflix, and he also played Milo Pressman on 24. So I hope you will enjoy this interview as much as I did. And of course, hit subscribe and the bell if you did enjoy the interview, and to support the show and myself. And this show is brought to you also by the wonderful people at Prop Store. Prop Store are an awesome company that deal with screen use props and costumes from your favourite film and TV show. So check them out, propstore.com today. And remember, if you've already got a prop or a costume, you can consign them with Prop Store to sell or put into auction. So remember, propstore.com. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this wonderful interview with Eric Balfour. On this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a great guest. He's starring currently in one of my family's favourite show on Netflix. It's Country Comfort. It's the awesome Eric Balfour. Eric, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on. And you know what? What a show. It's absolutely fantastic. But before we get on with talking about how awesome your new show is, how is everything, with you? Because obviously, I like to do a check-in with the guests in regards of lockdown and coronavirus and everything like that. So how are you and your family?
We are blessed that we've had the opportunity. We got to we've gotten to stay home a lot during quarantine, and we've gotten to spend lots of time together. We live in Los Angeles. I grew up here. My family's from Boyle Heights, from East LA. And so a lot of people, in that neighborhood and a lot of other neighborhoods across the city didn't have, the luxury that we did, where it was like, oh, it's scary outside, let's stay home. We have a yard to play in and a park nearby that never really closed. So we were really lucky. There were so many people, who were confined to small apartments and had kids, and I feel my heart goes out to them, because I don't know how you handle this like that. Like,
I know.
It's so hard, and like so many people just didn't even get to stay home. They had to go drive a truck or go work at a grocery store or work at a hospital, and so we've had it really, really easy. I mean, honestly, like we were lucky. So it's been all right. Fortunately, Los Angeles is, we're seeing the cases go down. I'm nervous, with what we're seeing in France and Italy, and seeing how the new variant is putting them back on lockdown. And I don't know, every other time we've seen what's happened in Europe, a few weeks later, a month or so later, it ends up happening here. So while everyone's really optimistic right now, and I am too, I am still worried that we're not out of the woods yet. Fortunately, my wife and I have gotten our first vaccine shots. We get our second one like in a week. So things are good.
Did you have a reaction with the vaccine? Did you have a
No.
reaction with the vaccine? No.
No, not at all. I know, like the new, it's like asking somebody what kind of car they drive. Like, which vaccine did you get?
Yeah. Because I
got the Moderna. What did you get?
Did you? I got the AstraZeneca. But I was.
Are you all right? How's that working out for you?
Saying that, 6 hours after actually having the jab, my temperature was over 40, and I couldn't walk for like 2 days. I was really bad off. But do you know what? It's worth it.
Not having a great week.
No,
they're having a rough time right now.
Yeah, but thing is, I mean, the vaccines are good and they're there for a reason. I suppose the risk, outweighs, anything. If we need to get into a good place, we need to be vaccinated. And I suppose, yeah, I mean, the millions and millions of people that have been vaccinated, there are going to be side effects with anything,
Yeah.
which,
I think we've gotten to this place in the world. It's not just here in America. I mean, you guys have it just as much there, where we become so polarized in choosing sides, that we no longer have the ability to be like, yeah, well, maybe I don't think every vaccine is necessary, but that doesn't mean that they are all bad. It doesn't, we don't have to, we've somehow gotten to this place in the world where it's like, it's all or nothing on everything. You either eat organic or you don't, you either take vaccines or you don't. You either, it's like all of this, it's like people need to learn to be flexitarians.
Yeah, definitely.
Just chill out.
Definitely. And I was watching Netflix the other night, and me and my wife was watching that documentary, that Seaspiracy. And wow. Do you know what? That is an unbelievable program.
The team at Sea Shepherd, Paul Watson and his entire crew and all those guys, they've been talking about this for so long. And it's interesting because for some people who've been involved in this issue for a long time, we're like, we've been saying this, but when you see it, the reason the documentary is so powerful is because it was able to capture these things up close and to really see the devastating effects that we are doing to our oceans. And it's really simple. I mean, Paul Watson says it all the time. If our oceans die, we die.
Exactly. And people just ignore it. And the work that the Sea Shepherd does, I mean, I've watched quite a few documentaries about them, and I think they're an awesome organization.
They are.
And there was a point when I was younger that I wanted to volunteer to be on one of the boats.
You still can.
Well, I can't. I'm married with kids, so I don't think the wife would let me go away for a couple of months.
Maybe not.
Or maybe.
But someday. Hey, how old are your kids?
So I've got a 3-year-old called Cara and a 7-year-old called Lois, and I've got 2 girls. And currently on lockdown, literally Zombies on Disney Plus has been on repeat and repeat and repeat. And my 3-year-old does full out dance routines while staring me down because I've got to watch her do these dance routines. She's only 3, and like she's proper pulling out the moves. And if I don't look at her, she stops. So I've had to endure a lot of dance routines while being stared at by a 3-year-old. So I don't know how you've been going.
Get it. No, I get it, man. My son is 2.5. He's almost at that same age, and he's just like, the other day he walked up to me, stuck out his hand. He was like, "Nice to meet you." Nice to meet you. I was like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Where did you learn that?" It's amazing. Yeah, he's the big one lately has been Daddy Doctor. He has ailments all the time. Yeah, the other day he got bit by a bumblebee about a year ago.
Right.
It still plagues him. It still plagues him to this day. Every couple of these, like, Daddy Doctor, ouch, bumblebee, sting. I'm like, okay, let's fix it, man. We gotta. So there's been, I get it.
And you go through hundreds of plasters at that age as well, because they want to plaster on every single part of their body at some point.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad that you're doing well and you're surviving this horrid COVID. And the great thing, there is a positive that's come out of this pandemic is that we've got a great show to be able to escape all this madness in the world. And when it got advertised, Country Comfort, I looked at it and I saw the cast and I thought, this looks amazing, because I quite like a bit of country music. I really do. And so, I thought I'll sit down with the wife, and we couldn't stop watching it. We couldn't stop. So if you can explain who you play and what the show is about.
Yeah, absolutely. So Country Comfort is a musical comedy that stars Catherine McPhee, really, and she's incredible in the show. And Catherine plays a young woman who's in a band that wants to be a country star, and her boyfriend Boone, played by myself, they have dreams and aspirations of being, country music stars. And at the beginning of the series, my character Boone, like many dumb boys, which we tend to be, thinks that he needs to make a change in his life, and that their musical partnership just isn't working anymore, and he needs to try something else. And that sets Bailey's character off on a new journey, and she sort of tries to find her way in the world, and she meets this family who's recently lost their mother, and they loved music as much as Bailey does, and she becomes their nanny. And the show was created by Karen Lucas, who's an incredible writer and just an amazing person. She brought such incredible energy to the scripts, to the show, to the set. She was the life of this show. So the show is magic. It really is. It's kind, and it's sweet, and it's funny, and it's got heart. And it was for me it was such a dream come true to get to be a part of it, because look, my first love is music. I grew up a musician and grew up, playing in bands and trying to be a rock star, and acting just, I loved being an actor. But it wasn't so much of a choice. My acting career did better than my music career, so that was the way I went. But to get to now come full circle and do a show that encompasses music and comedy. I mean, I've spent so much of my career, doing action-y stuff or supernatural stuff, or, all of these other things, dramatic stuff, that it's been such a joy to look. It's good for the soul when you spend your day trying to make people laugh. There's no way it can't be. So I just had, I can't say enough good things about the show. And it's really interesting because we all talked about it a lot. Like, well, how are people in other countries going to react to this setting and these characters that are very specific to our culture in America, obviously, especially in the South and Midwest, I think he's even more relatable, obviously. But we weren't sure. Like, we're like, are people in Spain and Germany and UK and Europe and in South America, are they gonna get it? Is it gonna be fun for them? And it's so cool to hear that. Like, I guess it's no different than us. For me, it was like watching the original Office. Like,
yes, the original.
Yes. No,
yes.
Not that. Don't get me wrong. I have a couple friends on the new one, and I really like them. So nothing against them. But there is no comparison to the original Office. Anything. Extras is like extras is amazing. Ricky Gervais is amazing.
But the thing is, American comedy has always been received quite well over in the UK. Obviously, a lot of UK comedy, I think, can get lost in translation because we use a lot of sarcasm in our comedy, and a lot of our comedy is quite dry. But I've got to say, Country Comfort, it's such an hilarious show. And when you said it's got heart, it has, because it's the only show that I've watched that I've laughed 1 second and had a tear the next second, because there were parts in that, especially with one episode when a country star gets brought into it, that got me to tears. It really did. I had a bit of a man cry, and but it's great to have that. It really, really is.
Well, that's the thing. I think really great comedy. When you think about, look, you, not to harp on it, but you think about The Office. You think about the nuances of what was going on in that show, and oftentimes I find that American comedy can be sort of, we can be much more slapsticky in some ways, and sort of, And what I loved about what Karen wanted to do with this show is that it walked this beautiful line of having sincerity and having really truthful moments about family and about loss and about relationships. And so, and they never were afraid. Like, there were definitely some episodes where I went, are we making this too heavy? Is this okay? Like, I think it's good, but maybe. And they were like, no, we love it. And so it was cool. It was awesome.
And what was the cast like? Because the cast is phenomenal, and I've got to say the youngest girl looks exactly like my daughter, my 3-year-old.
Hyper.
Yeah. What was it like working with all of them?
So, Catherine and Eddie are really nice. But the kids are just awful, terrible, evil little creatures. Just, I mean, who
would work with kids?
Yeah, I mean, never again. No, actually, like, teenagers and the entertainment industry is just a recipe for disaster. But fortunately, these kids, I mean, every single one of them is so freaking talented. I mean, and they all were just the loveliest, most grateful. And, Griffin, his dad, obviously has a very famous career in his own right. And so you kind of, I almost would wonder, like, maybe he would be a little bit jaded and, but not at all. They were all so grateful to be there every single day, and dedicated. I had a couple conversations with Shiloh, because she took what she did really seriously, and sometimes to the point where I even had to say to her a couple times, like, this has to stay fun. Like, you're so young, you have plenty of time for this to be a job.
Yeah,
you have plenty of time to deal with the hardships of being an entertainer. Just have this is movie camp right now, and enjoy it, because this is a blast. But they all were dedicated and sweet as buttons, but sweet as buttons. That's not even.
Sure.
I know. Is that a thing? Sweet as a button? Yeah. No, sweet as. I don't know what I was trying to say there. I feel like I'm close to something, but
I understood you. I knew what you were getting at. It's fine.
I'm turning into my wife. My wife.
Oh, dangerous ground.
Yeah, no, it's okay. She admits it. She changes analogies and metaphors and colloquialisms all the time, and you're just like, I'll be like, well, like, we just won't, like, don't worry, like, we don't have to tell everyone what happened. We don't have to, like, talk about it. Like, let's just keep it between us. And she's like, yeah, totally. When in Rome, right? I'm like, wait, do you mean when in Rome? Do you mean what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? She's like, yeah, like, when in Rome, when in Vegas. I'm like, no, totally different things. She's like, oh, yeah, no, I guess you're right. Like, when in Rome is like, do it as the Romans. All right. She's like, when in Vegas, like, what happens? Okay, yeah, they're totally different. I'm like, yeah. She does that all the time. I'm like,
and that's the woman you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So,
and I love her for it. It's adorable.
Exactly. I mean,
I wouldn't change it for a thing.
I confuse my wife all the time by using long words. It's great, and she hasn't got a clue what they are. It's fantastic. When we get into an argument, she says that I become a headmaster and I become a politician, and I'm like, oh dear.
You all of a sudden have a very big vernacular at that point.
Yeah. But we've got a fan question from Instagram from Jana. She's asked, what was your favourite scene on Country Comfort?
That's a tough one. I actually think my favorite scene was there was in episode 8 when we were being filmed by the camera crew for the Rocky Top competition. I thought that sequence with all the kids and when we were running into the living room and everything was falling apart and they were getting terrible footage, that's the scene for me. And this may sound strange because it's not sort of the biggest scene for me, certainly in the series, but it reminded me the sort of the snappy bounce, and sort of, it reminded me of being a part of those scenes that I saw guys like Hugh Grant do in movies, and Robin Williams, and just this sort of really bouncy John Ritter, who I just, a lot of, it's so sad because so many younger actors and just younger people in general don't know who John Ritter is. And he was such a comedic genius. I was actually, I don't know his kids very well, but I think I can tell this story. I ran into one of them on a beach one day, and my wife actually grew up with them, and we were saying hi, and I so badly wanted to say to them, like, oh my, your dad is like an idol to me. People who don't know, John Ritter was the star of Three's Company, which was an American sitcom in the 70s and 80s. And while he had an incredible career. Nothing against his, he for some reason, I don't know that young people today, he sort of doesn't have the same sort of zeitgeisty, fame of maybe a Robin Williams or John Candy or Steve Martin or someone like that, but he should, because he's just, he was amazing. And so I love that scene. I love that sort of the physicality of it, and the way that everyone was having to bounce and be in time together. And I just love that about comedy. I mean, that's, for me, doing comedy is really my favorite thing, because it's so challenging, because you can just one little slip up timing wise and the joke doesn't land. It's not right. And it's why I love British comedy, especially because it is so much about the dry humor and the sarcasm and the subtlety. It's not, I suppose there's Faulty Towers and Monty Pythons, but for the most part, you think of, I'm trying, I guess, I was about to say, like, except for Little Britain. Little Britain's pretty. Whatever happened to Little Britain? I miss Little Britain.
Little Britain is off air. They're literally, at the moment, they're trying to take a lot of shows off air, and some mothers do have them. I don't know if you've ever heard of that show. It's got Michael Crawford in it, who's a big sort of West End star, and he was in Vegas for a while. They're trying to take that out off the air because of a homophobic slur in the show. To be honest, I think certain shows need to change, but I personally just think they can't take everything off TV. Do you know what I mean? I can understand certain things being taken off, but
it's challenging. It's hard. Like, look, I get it. It's not always easy. Life is it's never, nothing is simple and clear cut. No. Life is messy, and so I do think there has to be again, it goes back to that sort of, polarization of context. Context matters. Intention matters. Like if a comedian makes a joke, and maybe it crosses a line, maybe it's inappropriate, maybe it goes too far. That's part of, that's part of what comedians do. That's what part of what life is. You push the boundaries, you see how far you can go. And sometimes you overstep it. And there's a big difference between somebody crossing a boundary because they meant to hurt someone and somebody just not knowing that, sometimes you don't know the line is there until you walk over it.
Yeah.
That's just life.
Yeah.
So,
But it's great that Country Comfort doesn't cross any lines, which is good, because it's just wholesome family viewing. How difficult was it to film the scenes with you performing, singing? Was that how did they actually film that? Because it just seemed seamless. It just looked fantastic.
Yeah, well, it was not. I think, obviously Catherine has even more experience probably than I do performing live as a musician. I've she's been on tour a lot more than I ever have. But, I grew up a musician. I grew up performing. I grew up on stage. So it felt very comfortable and natural. You are singing to playback. You're basically lip syncing, on the stage. So that's always a little weird. And then unlike a a traditional, let's say, stage performance where you make sure it works for you as an artist. There was a couple performances like where the stage was about like the size of didn't even fit us both. And we're like, they've got a drum kit on there, they've got guitars and keyboards. We're like, where do I put the arm of my guitar neck? Because I'm gonna clock someone in the head. So you were trying to sort of make those moments look comfortable. But look, I had a blast getting to stand side by side and sing with Catherine. She's fire.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's absolutely awesome. Because I can remember, was it American Idol that she won?
Yeah.
When she
I don't know.
started,
I mean, I don't think she. Yeah. You know what? It's American.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually, because I can remember seeing her for the very first time on American Idol.
She was definitely on American Idol, and as far as we are concerned, she won.
Yes, she took part, and she did a good job. Do we know if we're getting season 2 of Conjure Comforts? Are we getting another season?
I have not heard anything official, but are you kidding me? How could they not do a season 2? They have to.
I know.
They will. There's no. I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't do a season 2. I mean,
but it's just
knock on wood somewhere, but
yeah. I mean, it's fantastic, and fingers crossed we do get a season 2. So while I've got you here, it'll be rude not to just mention a few other projects that you've done, which I think are awesome as well. The first being Skyline. So in 2010, we saw this wonderful film come out, and a couple of weeks ago, I had the writer Liam O'Donnell on the show as well.
My boy.
Because he's gone on to do Beyond Skylines and Skylines. And I've got to say, what an awesome movie. And from what Liam described, it was quite a low-budget movie. What was it like working on it? Because it was just astonishing what he was telling me about it.
When we made the original Skyline, it was made for almost no budget. And I actually think one of the things that ended up being a challenge for the movie is that when the movie, we made it for nothing. We actually made it in Colin and Greg, the director's apartment in Marina Del Rey. Like, we moved into their apartment and made the movie there. When they sold it to Universal, Universal, loved it, and they were, incredibly excited about it. But instead of necessarily, sort of just saying this was a movie made, this is the Blair Witch Project of sci-fi movies, of alien invasion movies, they went, it looks incredible and it looks huge. Let's make it a huge tentpole movie. But it really wasn't. It really was this really small, tiny little movie made for no money. And so the people who sort of walked into it knowing that were really impressed and went, wow, how did they pull this off? The people who went in and saw the Universal Studios globe and Brett Ratner's company name and Relativity went, doesn't seem like that big a movie. It all took place in an apartment. Like, so what? So it was really interesting to see. I wish they had been more vocal about what it actually was. And look, hindsight's 2020.
But it's awesome.
It's cool.
Do you know what? From the effects to the way it was filmed, I just think that it's fantastic. And the critics obviously, believed what the studios were telling everyone before they saw it, but it still holds up as a great sci-fi movie. I mean, how difficult was it? Because a lot of the visual effects, it weren't sort of green screen; it was practical. How fun was that to act? I mean, how many of those creatures were real? I mean,
none. None of the creatures were real, but we were. It was. I mean, I was covered in black, gooey gut. We really were on the roof of that building, 50 stories up in the air, and running around the roof on helipads, and it's being a kid again. You get to make believe, and you have fighter jets that aren't there flying over your head and almost hit you, and you have it's a blast.
It's
I mean, it's a
awesome.
blast. I mean,
It's
but no,
a perfect.
it was tennis balls on sticks, and some rubber tires, I think, and that's about it.
And that just shows how good of an actor you are, because I would have believed they were really there. So moving on, 24 for me is absolutely one of the best series that's been on TV, and I've had the pleasure of already interviewing Xander Berkeley and James Morrison, and tomorrow I'm interviewing Carlos Bernard. As well from the show. You play Milo Pressman, and you featured in season 1 and 6. Obviously in season 1, what was the audition process like for 24? Because it was a new show. I mean, you didn't know anything about it at that point.
I mean, honestly, like it wasn't until I came back in season 6 that I understood what it was. I mean, in season 1, I don't know, I was just like, all right, cool. I knew I was a big fan of Kiefer Sutherland. I liked Flatliners, and I thought Young Guns. I mean, Young Guns is still to this day one of my favorite movies ever. But it wasn't until I came back in season 6 that all of a sudden every week there was like a new basketball player or a celebrity who wanted to come visit the set and see what CTU looked like. And it wasn't until then that I was sort of like, wow, this is kind of a big deal.
And was it quite good fun working on the show?
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, it was, I learned from season 1 to season 6 a few good lessons about, like, make sure you really like your outfit for the season, because there's a very good chance that you will be in it every single day for like 9 months. And actually, I remember Marisol Nichols, who was in season 6 with us, who is an amazing human being. I remember walking by one day when she was doing her first wardrobe fitting. She's like, "Hey, Balfour, what do you think of my outfit?" I'm like, "Yeah, you look great, man." She's like, "Yeah." She's like, I'm like, "But just make sure you're comfortable." She's like, "No, it's really comfortable. They put in my dress shirt, they put little buttons so that my shirt buttons into my pants, so it never comes untucked." And I'm like, "All right, cool." Like 4 months later, she was like, "Damn it, I have to pee again. And every time I have to pee, I got to unbutton all these buttons and button them back." I'm like, I warned you. Yeah,
funny you say that. Funny you say that. I've actually got Kiefer Sutherland's shirt and jeans from season 5 that he wears all the way through. That I got from our sponsors at Prop Store, and I suppose you don't think of that you choose your outfit, and then for the whole 24 episodes, or depending on how long you last within that season, you've got that outfit on. But what's your fondest memory of working on the show? Because the characters around you and obviously the actors are superb. I mean, have you got one moment that just you absolutely love?
Honestly, like my favorite moment was didn't happen on set. It was actually when my band was playing at a local club in Hollywood called the Viper Room, and Kiefer came out to see us one night. And I know how hard he worked every day and how many hours he worked, and it meant a lot. That was kind of the biggest moment. I was really grateful. That was cool because.
And what was Kiefer like?
He's a big musician. He loves music, and so for him,
I've actually been to see him twice in concert.
Oh, cool!
And I met him afterwards as well, and his music's fantastic. Again, very country vibe to it. But what was it like working with Kiefer? Because James Morrison's got nothing but wonderful things to say about him. But this is off the back of something I read about with Freddie Prinze Jr. Absolutely, slating Kiefer for his way on set. Did you experience anything like that?
I didn't know. I actually haven't heard anything about that, so I don't know what Freddie said. But no, I mean, the truth of the matter is, Kiefer takes what he does really seriously. He's really dedicated to it. I mean, I can tell you, if I messed up a line in a scene, before the script supervisor could give it to me, Kiefer would give it to me. He knew my lines. He knew everyone's lines. He was just, and he could be intense on set, but that's only because he loved what he loves what he does, and he loved doing it, and he was good at it. The minute, in the mornings or after set, he'd be out in the parking lot with a lasso and trying to wrangle a metal cow thing, and was a blast. He played chess with him and you hang out, and Kiefer's awesome. I never had that, I never had a bad experience with Kiefer. He fucking just worked hard and loved what he did. So
that's good to hear, because he just seems a nice guy to me. And obviously, you don't always get on with the people you work with, in everyday jobs. I've
had plenty of situations where sometimes you just don't click with people, and that happens.
Yeah. And obviously you left the show, which is really sad, because I was going to ask, obviously, do you ever think we're going to get another 24 with Kiefer down the line? But obviously, unless I don't want to spoil it for anyone, because I just think it's awesome that people can binge watch 24
go
now.
Watch it. I have a feeling that 24, I think, is probably had its moment, and I think someone will need to invent the next 24. Something.
Oh no!
I know. No. I'm so sorry.
I know, it's awesome. It can't ever end. Just like Country Comfort can't end. It's got to have a season 2. Did you keep
from your mouth to God's ears?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, did you keep anything from any of your shows or any of your films, or your past
stuff all the time.
I
was literally wearing a shirt from Country Comfort yesterday.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff from Haven too. Like, I kept a lot of wardrobe from Haven. I still, like, my 2 favorite pairs of boots are from Haven.
Wow. Well, you know what? The sponsors of my show, Prop Store, they actually sell props from film and TV. So if you've ever got a project that you're trying to get off the ground, instead of doing like a Kickstarter or something like that, contact Prop Store, tell them about your Haven stash, and I'm sure that will because the market for it is unbelievable. People pay a lot of money for something that's screen worn or used.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So you never know. So before we wrap up this wonderful interview with you, Eric, music. What is happening with music during lockdown? Is that giving you any time to
It's given me a lot of time to play songs for my son and to sing and play music with him. But I've been thinking about it more and more lately, about wanting to, get back in a studio and write some songs and record some songs. But no plans right at the moment. But I don't know. There's ideas percolating. Because
your music is absolutely awesome.
Thanks,
is it Light On that you've got on YouTube? Yeah, it's an awesome track. Absolutely awesome. And your voice is amazing. So I'm really shocked that you haven't, pursued that more, because, well, maybe off the back of Country Comfort. Do you know what I mean? There could be a tour going on.
I think I look, again, music will always be my first love. So, it's life and kids and work, and, you have to sort of pick your battles, but hopefully soon. Maybe this will give me the push I need to.
Oh, that would be awesome. And the next time you're over in the UK, I mean, do you attend conventions a lot, or is that?
No, not a lot. Like when there's a reason to, and we've gone to Comic-Con and done some of those things, I've had a blast. Like, I know we did an event in Paris a few years ago that was really fun, and I love the opportunity when we get to go and you get to meet, fans of projects you've done and to interact with people. The part that I can't really get behind is like those events where it's like people pay to get your autograph and you sit in a little thing, and I can't get down with that. It Look, everyone's got to make a living, and I understand it. But for me, like, I don't know. There's something sacred, I guess, in my mind about the relationship between, artists and their fans. And they already, look, they already buy your product. They already watch your show and will go see your movie. Like, to charge them for an autograph. That one always just felt weird to me. So I like doing those things, like when it has nothing to do with that. I just don't like that.
I mean, as a convention goer myself, it is a weird transaction. And it is a transaction. You see the star, and then you see the person helping them sat next to them, taking your money, and then they're signing something. So I completely understand where you're coming from. I mean, from a star, it's got to be a weird sort of position to be in. But maybe
it just feels wrong. It just feels exploitive.
Feels dirty.
Yeah, it does. It does. It honestly, it does. Like I've seen it, and I got offered something like that one, or I actually ended up somewhere, and I didn't realize like that's what it was. I thought it was just like this fan event, and then I sort of noticed like people like in a queue to pay. And I was like, what are they doing? They're like, well, they're paying for the autographs. I'm like, for my autograph? I'm like, oh, no, hell no. I'm like, no, I'll give you the money back. And I basically was just like, I'll give the money back, and I'll just do it. Like, I was like, this is fucked up. I was like, it was, it felt really gross, and like, dirty is the right word.
You had to take a shower afterwards and then speak to a shrink. Yeah. But no, that's great. Eric, you know what? It's been great chatting to you. Obviously, people can follow you on Instagram and Twitter. The link is on the screen just there. Eric Balfour. Nice and simple is your name. Before we go, what is next for you after Country Comfort?
Right now, it is just focusing on being a dad. Hoping for a season 2 of Country Comfort, and being a dad. That's it right now. That's my job. My job is to be Oliver's dad.
That is awesome, and what a job it is to be a super dad and to be more super, as the show is called, because it's about finding out what makes people super, and straight away you're a dad, and that is the biggest job that anyone can have, and the biggest role that anyone can take on. Any plans for any more, or is one enough?
If we're so lucky, man, bring them on.
I wonder how many lockdown babies there's gonna be, because no one's been going out, and but thankfully there's good stuff on TV at the moment, like your show.
Well,
so
I
hopefully no more
babies. Please. Yeah, thank you so much, man. I'm so glad you loved the show and enjoyed watching it, and thank you.